Good evening. Good evening. I'm Faraji Bhakti, Community Engagement Specialist with Yoga Behind Bars. Thank you for spending this time with me. I have a little bit of poetry to open this up. I offer this opening from my Guru Mai, to start. With great respect and great love, I welcome you all with all my heart. Then with Natalie, I take 12 synchronized steps aligned with conscious breaths, becoming one with the many aspects of my highest self with Jess. Her introduction to bring awareness to each part after each movement allows me to delve deeper into me. I now see that we are all drops of water in the ocean of infinity, the one that makes the many and the many that are contained in the one. I meditate on how much well-being YBB has selflessly spread since they first begun. Namaste. The teacher training takes students from straining to stretching while I seriously try to keep my downward dog from fetching during this 2-hour session. I offer my bhakti to the goddess Shakti simply and plainly, and I offer my Atman's tears to the exquisite Sanskrit mantras sung by Rainey. Om. How those vibrations awoke a place in me that I could witness. In an instant, I experienced a feeling that I never knew existed. Even after I left the class, it still persisted. Rainey, you are truly gifted. Angel, spontaneous spirit, kept a smile sprouting as she took us outside of the line. I know teaching yoga keeps her and her highest power aligned. That's truly divine. I stay inspired. Every instructor I have taken in with Ujjayi breath to stroke my inner fire. I breathe victoriously while Vanessa's strength leaves most in between exhaustion and pleasure. Your focus, dedication, and in spirit outshines any material treasure. You bring a moving energy to class that expresses how connected to the universe you are. Then when feeling frisky, cat about to pounce, raises the bar. Introducing somatics, which I call sammatics, was awesome. Subtle movements in Shavasana, or we could rename it playing possum. Then there's compassionate Chris, with her gifts of oneness and wholeness, bringing a selfless service and humbleness that I am ingratiated to notice. Her and Beth were a great tandem to test what we had left, and Morgan's fluid motions left most covered in sweat. YBB has allowed me to escape these bars and dehumanizing guards, to find my right place amongst the stars. If I could repay you all, what type of gift would suffice? Well, here's the entire universe. Just save me a slice. I thank you. I thank you for allowing me to share that poem with you. Those were many volunteers that came into WSR Moreau and spread their connectivity with me in community. And that's why I'm here, to show that power in community transcends beyond the bars. I would like to introduce you to a very special person, Zabby. But actually, they are Yoga Behind Bars co-executive directors named Zoe and Gabby. Zoe's focus is on content development and fundraising, while Gabby's focus is on programming and volunteer and staff development. I witnessed the emergence of Zabby through this uncertain transition out of the pandemic, and while simultaneously envisioning a structure that the organization could thrive in. This was no doubt a challenging task, and as month after month of their leadership style was employed, I saw it coming into fruition. By moving at the speed of trust and building community through authentic relationships, Zabby has made me feel powerful in this community. Thank you.
Thank you, Faraji. Welcome, friends. My name is Gabby Oglesby, and I use she, her, or they, them pronouns. And I'm one of the co-executive directors at Yoga Behind Bars. Thank you so much for showing up for us tonight in support of bringing trauma-informed yoga and meditation to those experiencing incarceration. Showing up hasn't been easy, especially these last few years. So as we go through our program this evening, I hope you make space for whatever needs you have. Use the bathroom, grab a glass of water or tea, and take stretch breaks as needed. Zoe, how you doing?
Ooh, I'm nervous. I'm excited. I hope y'all one day get an intro that fabulous. And I also I hope you don't have to follow and act like that. But we got this.
We got this. We got this, girl.
And friends, if you'd like to watch with captions this evening, you can click on them towards the bottom of your viewing screen by clicking the CC icon for closed captions. As Faraji said, my name is Zoe Barker Adiram. I use she, her pronouns, and I'm co-executive director alongside Gabby. I'm also the only person on staff who is not a certified yoga instructor, and we'd love to start this evening out breathing together. So Gabby.
Yeah, so I invite you all, before we get started tonight, to just take a moment to pause and to ground into this space together. This is a sacred practice that we do at the beginning of most gatherings here at YBB. So you are invited to find yourself a comfortable seat. Take your time as you arrive. Feel free to let go of the day thus far. Take a look around your space. Maybe rotate your gaze over your right shoulder, back through center, and then over your left. Noticing any shapes, textures, colors. Looking now up towards the sky and back down towards the earth. Bringing your head back to neutral. Hands can be placed gently in the lap with palms face up or face down. Or you're invited to put one hand over your heart and one hand over your belly. Invitation here to soften the gaze or close the eyes if that feels comfortable. And we're going to take 3 deep cleansing breaths together. So bring your attention to your breath, and on your next inhale, fill the belly with air and consider what it means to be in community. Think of all the people watching here tonight who might be in different places, become united in our commitment to our neighbors behind bars. And as you exhale, send out love and light to all of those in attendance and to all of those who could not be here tonight. So we'll do 2 more rounds of that as you breathe in, fill the belly and lungs with air, holding this community. And as you exhale, send out your unique light and love. And we'll do that one more time. Inhale fully and deeply. Take the biggest breath that you've taken all day. And as you exhale, feel free to release. Let it all go. Now gently invite awareness back into the body. You can wiggle the fingertips and toes. Open your eyes if they were closed and come back to the space.
Thank you, Gabby. We're here tonight to raise money to support our current classes, about 15 yoga and meditation classes a week across over 6 facilities, as well as to build staff capacity so we can say yes to opportunities to return to facilities as they finally start to open back up to outside programs. We'll pause for a moment later in our program to ask you to make a meaningful donation to bring yoga and meditation to our neighbors behind bars. But if you feel so inspired before we get there, there's a link in the chat for you to give. It's yogabehindbars.org/donate. Everyone who makes a gift tonight will also be entered to win a very personal prize package. Beautiful goodies from Hildegard and Rosa, a $100 gift card to Delancey from Natalie, homemade cookies from Maggie. Each gift is another chance to win, so give a couple times. Have fun with it. Okay. Next, we wanted to share a quick message from our board chair, Carlencia Calvin. Carlencia, or Carly as we know her, works as an accountant at Brighton Jones while being in law school. So it speaks to her deep commitment to the work that she's chosen to invest her extremely limited free time to support us. Thank you, Carly.
Good evening. Thank you for joining Yoga Behind Bars 2022 Power of Community event. My name is Carlencia Calvin, and I serve as board chair on YBB's board of directors. The past few years have been hard for us all, especially those in the nonprofit arena, and YBB was no exception. However, when the world slowed down a bit in 2020, I was able to take the time to visit a virtual YBB board meeting after I learned that the organization was looking for new board members. After learning a little bit more about YBB, I decided to join the board because I've seen firsthand how incarceration can snuff out hope and spirit of a person. I've had family spend time behind bars, and I previously worked as the accountant at Criminal District Court in Orleans Parish in Louisiana. Our prison system in America is supposed to be about rehabilitation, but that's not true in reality. Our system shuffles traumatized people in and out and back in again with very few opportunities for integration and healing. Yoga Behind Bars teaches mindfulness and helps people experiencing incarceration find hope, peace, and healing despite their physical lack of freedom. I am so honored to be a part of helping these individuals maintain their humanity in such inhumane conditions. Thank you for joining us tonight. Welcome, and I hope our program touches you in a meaningful way.
Thank you, Carly. I was at a community event recently when Kamati Carter, one of the leaders of Washington State's Black Prisoners Caucus, said, "The people bring justice to the justice system." And I've been sitting with that because I like to think that that is the work of Yoga Behind Bars. To not only bring movement and meditation to those experiencing incarceration, but creating a container for healing to happen by simply being willing to see the humanity of those inside. Prisons are dehumanizing, so by choosing to go inside to honor the humanity of those behind bars, it is truly powerful, and that to me is justice.
But we live in a country that equates punishment with justice, and a lot of punishment at that. According to the Sentencing Project, in the early 1970s, the number of individuals in prison in the US was less than 200,000. Today, it's ballooned to 1.4 million people, and more than 200,000 people alone are serving life sentences, or out of about every 7 people in prison.
And what's worse than that is punishment is not dealt out equally. More than 2/3 of those serving life sentences are people of color. So ask yourself, what do we teach people when we lock them away and throw away the key? Where is the justice in that?
That reflection that Gabby just showed us is why reflection has to be a bigger part of our work as we dream up new solutions. An example would be land acknowledgements. Personally, I used to really struggle with land acknowledgements. A place like Seattle, they often feel performative, like a box an organization has to check. But a land acknowledgement is an opportunity to be in right relation with the earth, with our neighbors, to check in with ourselves and ask, do my actions line up with my values? As many of us know from our yoga and meditation practices, this pause, this questioning, this realignment is how we make ourselves. So, I would like to acknowledge that we are on the traditional land of the first people of Seattle, the Duwamish people past and present, and honor with gratitude the land itself and the Duwamish tribe, as well as the Muckleshoot, Suquamish, Puyallup, and many other Coast Salish nations and tribes. I am grateful, especially tonight, especially with this team, to the indigenous wisdom that reminds me this world has not always been as it is now, and it will not always be.
So today, we're asking you to grow something, to check in with yourself. Am I in right relation to the land, to my neighbors? How would our community look if we cared for each other? How would it look if we centered our collective liberation? Fannie Lou Hamer said, nobody's free until everybody's free. So that's the question we've come together tonight to ask in so many ways. How would our community look if we cared for each other? How would it change and grow if we learn to reflect on our own actions and see ourselves clearly with room to grow and grace for our missteps? So now we want to invite Nikki Myers and April Berg to share some of their perspectives on these ideas. Nikki, April, welcome.
Hi, everyone. I'm Representative April Berg, and I'm coming to you today with Nikki Myers. And I just quickly want to introduce myself, let you know a little bit about who I am and what I do. I'm the state representative for the 44th Legislative District here in Washington State. I'm proud to be representing this district. I was the first African-American woman elected to this position, and I'm coming to you as your vice chair of House Finance. I'm also on your local government committee as well as education. I have a passion around healing and learning and making communities whole, and that's why I'm in this work. I also have a background with yoga behind bars, having taken their teacher training right before COVID hit. With that, I'm going to throw it right over to Nikki and let her introduce herself.
First of all, I'm so grateful to meet you, Representative Berg, and so grateful for the work you do. So thank you, and I really appreciate this invitation to be here. So I usually introduce myself in a really specific way, and simply because it gives a lens, a view into the work and how I got into it. So wherever I am, and last week I happened to speak at the Clinton Global Initiative, and I've done work at Harvard Medical School, and wherever I am, right, I do it the same way. And I'm Nikki, and my pronouns are she, her, and we. And part of this introduction gives some insight into that we, right? And the we for me is, I always say I am a yoga therapist. I'm a somatic experiencing practitioner. And somatic experiencing is this trauma healing methodology that was developed by Dr. Peter Levine. I am an MBA. I am just so many things in that realm. And the big thing with that is the and, right? And I'm an addict, I'm an alcoholic, I'm a codependent, I'm the survivor of both childhood and adult sexual trauma. I'm a love addict, I'm a former commercial sex worker, and I'm the mother of 2 living and 1 deceased child. I'm the grandmother of 5. I'm actually the great grandmother of 6 3/4. There's 1 on the way, right? And I'm a lover of all things dogs. I'm a lover of life. I'm a spiritual seeker. And the point of this thing is all of those are a part of who I am. All of those are a part of my experience in this plane of existence. And what I've discovered is when I make one part of myself bad, awful, and wrong, and another part of myself right and wonderful and praiseworthy, that what happens is there's actually a fissure in my being. There's this split. Number one, the yoga, it means union. It means balance. It means integration, which is the antithesis of this split. And when that split is present, there's this internal war that goes on inside of me. There's this fight. So part of the healing journey has been in integrating all those parts, bringing all those parts back in, right? In this inclusive being and experience of who I am. And once everything's included, I get to recognize that truth is none of those things define me. I'm much more than any of that. But it's only after accepting and including it all do I get this opportunity to recognize that I'm far beyond any of that. And this is where my work came from. It's been started with my own lived experience and healing in this lived experience, and then recognizing that there were a whole lot of other people just like me, right, who this kind of integration can support them in transforming and resilience for whatever it is we might have experienced in this plane.
Wow, thank you for that. That was so powerful. And it reminded myself, my pronouns are she, her. But Nikki, listening to your introduction, what I really hung my hat on was and the power of and in your statement, and that is so powerful. And I think for me, I'm gonna practice the power of and incorporating that, because I think as women, as yoga practitioners, as folks who want to heal folks and make communities whole, the power of and connects us more to community. And you've illustrated it. It is huge. One of
That,
the things, it's that little, yeah, it's that little, and it's so small, but it's
that
so
little
huge.
bitty word, right,
Yes,
right.
yes, no, and it's huge because it makes you everything, and it makes everything you are okay. You know, it's
Yes.
all a part of you. You haven't taken those pieces out of you. Those aren't buts, but and so it's an and one of the things when I was reading over, I was kind of fangirling you when I was preparing for this, and I was reading over some of the work that you've done and reading about the yoga and 12-step recovery. And I just want to ask you, we're all coming to this work, to this journey from different places. And for me, it's seeing folks incarcerated and wanting them made whole, and wanting to give them tools to make themselves whole, and wanting to be a part of that community practice. What brought you to your journey? How did you come upon founding and directing such a powerful movement, really?
Yeah, it really is that lived experience. There were parts, like folks who are incarcerated,
Mm,
we're a culture that, thinks for some reason there's still this idea that they're throwaway people, right? That people can be thrown away, right? And I experienced that in the whole in part of my history,
mhm,
right? People ready to give up and throw away. And so, like I said before, out of my own lived experience,
mhm.
and my experience includes relapse. I was clean for 8 years, then I relapsed, and I was clean for another 4 years, and then I relapsed again. I'm grateful to say right now, it's been 22 years since that last relapse. And
Congratulations.
what I found for me is it's been this deep integration of not just the cognitive work that
Mhm.
is like done in 12-step programs and other addiction treatment and healing methodologies. Some of it strictly really looks more toward the cognitive, more
Mm,
toward that work. And for me, it was this integration of the cognitive and the somatic that
yeah.
made the big difference and was a true tide turner on
Mhm,
this healing journey that I'm still a part of one day at a time right now, right?
mhm.
And so it was that recognition that these two things needed to be deeply coupled, that there needed to be this coupleship. We live in a world and a culture that so bows down to just mind and intellect that we forget that really it's all one thing, and that
Mhm.
there needs to be this deep integration otherwise. And so it was that work that was a big, big shift for
Yeah.
me. And
Well, and part of when I was looking over just some of your, I almost want to say mantras, right? The things that you really hang your hat on. And one of the things that you say is that the issues are in the tissues.
yep.
And that, I mean, walk me through that, because there's power in just that statement. And
Yeah.
listening to the work you do, you put that power into practice.
Yeah, yeah. Thank you for asking that, right? It's a big thing on many levels, on many, many levels. But on a real, I think, easy level to really comprehend,
Mhm.
really, it really is all the same thing. The body, the mind, the
Mhm.
spirit are really all the same thing. And what you do to one really affects all the others. What
Yeah.
happens to one affects all of the others. So, many things get stuck actually in our very bodies that are sometimes clogged and unable to move. There's
Mhm.
no space
Mhm.
and things get stuck there. So, a minute trauma lives in our bodies,
Yeah.
right? It's more than the event, it's what gets stuck that can't move. And that can happen in a multitude of places within the being. So just recognizing that the issues really live in our tissues,
Mhm.
and doing this work in order to trauma something that's stuck,
Yeah.
right? It can't move, something that's stuck. And so creating pathways of freedom in areas that
Mhm.
we're stuck can help us to begin to release whatever's held.
Yeah, and that's the power in that, because as you talked about your own relapse, and as we, when we work with folks who are incarcerated, and there's that feeling of, I hate to even use the word, but there's that feeling of failure. Like why am I back? Why am I going down this path again? Why is this journey taking me here? And so it sounds like what you're talking about, those paths to freedom, and incorporating even back to the and statement. And so just talk to me a little bit about how that feels, that feeling of being unstuck, and the power that's in that, so that you can push past any relapses or any potential what seems like a setback.
I love that question. And in some ways there's more of a lightness, I want to say,
Mhm.
to being. It's not like, I hope they don't mind, you don't mind too much if I use a French,
Go for
what's
it.
one of those words, right, right. It's not that shit's not gonna happen,
Mhm.
right? Because we're in this plane of existence and shit is going to happen.
After 2 years of COVID,
However,
we know that. Yes, it is.
we know that, right? We know that. We know that. And there's that and again,
Mhm.
what I can do is build capacity and build resilience such that when things happen, which it will, resilience is more than, sometimes we have that framed as bouncing back, right? And I
Mhm.
love the definition of resilience. It says resilience is the ability to it's more than bouncing
Yes.
back. It's the
Yes.
ability to transform the experience.
Mhm.
And in order to do that, you have to have space. You have to build the capacity for that,
Mhm.
right? So things don't continue to get stuck. And some of, for example, the practices from yoga,
That
some
is
of
the
the
same thing.
things,
Yeah.
exactly,
Mhm.
exactly. It teaches us some skill building capacities, not only to deal with whatever it is that comes up, but it helps us to prevent that stuckness and prevent those things for whatever occurs in the moment.
Yeah, and just that breath work. As you were speaking, I was thinking about that breath work. And when you're trying to make space, let's say for a posture, and when you're talking with your practitioner, and they're asking you to just take that deeper breath to make that space, and you've taken that space, that breath work, into really a movement to help folks where they are to get unstuck. And I wonder, I'm thinking about that as it relates to our incarcerated populations, that a lot of folks listening might be out there teaching and training to teach and working with. And so how does that look when you are working with someone? And so I'm thinking about in practice, and someone who's so stuck and they haven't had the benefit of maybe even a 12 step program, more or less a yoga program, or anything to get them unstuck. What does that first timer look like? That change look like?
I love that. First of all, this whole idea of being with and being in connection and
Mhm.
in real relationship with someone else, and recognizing, we say namaste, right? And one way that I've been taught that really, what it really means is
Mhm.
that when I look at you, what I'm looking for and what I see is for the God, the good, the
Yeah.
divine sweetness, which is in everyone. We're
Mhm.
all whole and complete. We all are. We've just had all this crap dumped on top of our wholeness that we can't find wholeness anymore.
Yeah.
But when I'm in a space with someone and they know that I'm, what I'm looking for is that namaste,
Mhm.
right? To see that that's what's it, because I know it's in there,
Because it's in
right?
there. Yeah, you're not
It's
asking them to change. It's in there.
it's in there, right?
Mhm.
And all of our job, that I'm doing the same thing, all of us are doing the same thing, is chipping away
Mhm.
all that is not our wholeness. We've
Yeah.
all had conditioning, we've all had all this stuff dumped on top of our wholeness, right? But just being in a space with someone else who recognizes and looks at me and knows that no matter what the presentation is in front of them, that there's wholeness in there, and they're looking for that rather than looking for the fault,
Yeah.
rather than looking for the crap on top of the wholeness. I'm looking for the wholeness inside. And that makes a world of difference. For me, it was a life-changing thing. And I've seen that in relationship with others, that it's really a life-changing thing.
That's huge. I think even your definition of resilience and it not being that, bounce back, buddy, it's actually, being where you are and finding that path to freedom so that you can be resilient for that next thing. And I think about, I'll tell you, as a policymaker, I wish there was a Nikki in every one of our spaces where trauma is housed. And I say that in a real meaningful way, because our prisons, our jails, sometimes, frankly, our schools. It's just, there's so much trauma out there, and so many institutions, frankly, that willingly or unwillingly are participating in that infrastructure of trauma. And so I wish I could have a Nikki everywhere, but I will say that folks are sitting in lots of communities listening to our conversation. What are your thoughts about how they can be that change, that light, put that and in their story to help someone else? What would be your advice?
For me, it's a compassionate self-inquiry, right? What I discovered is and I see this in many others, finding purpose in the wound that has, my own wound, right?
Yeah.
And finding real purpose out of that. That's been the case for me, right? The resilience is finding this purpose in my experience so that I can support others through their experience. And, you have to really do some capacity building within yourself or within ourselves, sometimes in order to face that, and sometimes we need help with that, right? We may need therapists, we may need all those kinds of things to do that deep level of work. And there's a gift in there, right? There's a gift in that wound, whatever it is, that allows us to create a container and hold others as they move through their work within that wound. So, that's not it's not a simple answer.
Yeah, no, it's not.
Yeah. In 12 step, we say it really is simple, but it's not easy. That's the big deal, right?
Yeah, well, but that's real talk. I think that journey of self-awareness and capacity building within ourselves, a lot of times, and this might be a little too real, but a lot of times we come into work trying to help other people because we're trying to get away from ourselves.
That's it.
And that's what you're really getting at, is that we have to really look inwards. We have to create that. And I'm going to tell you right now, Nikki, I'm going to write my bio with the ands. I'm going to take that as an assignment, because I think that's going to help me in my work as a policymaker become more self-aware and understand, if I'm trying to heal a community, making sure I've done the work myself before I come into community. And I feel like, for folks listening and for me listening to you, that's a powerful takeaway from this moment. And also the power of yoga behind bars, because I know going through that program helped me become more self-aware in the moment and really, really search myself about why I wanted to come into spaces and heal folks in correctional facilities. And so I'm hoping that people also take away your advice.
I love it. I love it.
Yeah. Well, and I was just going to say, what do you want to leave folks with? Because I know I want to end this with a big hug, and I know we can't because you're road running today, and so am I. So, but let's end it with folks where they can really take it away.
I love gratitude, right? Gratitude is such a powerful force for positive change,
Yes.
right? That for whatever shows up, right? It's such a powerful force for positive change. I've discovered that when I make my gratitude bigger than my fear or my sadness or my opinion, which can be big, when gratitude's bigger than that, it opens up possibility, right? It opens up a whole new set of possibility. So I just want to end this with a ton of gratitude for this conversation and for meeting you and for Yoga Behind Bars and all the work that organization does. You know, and again, in this recognition, this isn't, like you said, about saving, you know, going in and playing savior or any of that. It's in the recognition that there are no throwaway people, right?
100%.
You just, there are no throwaway people, that there, you know, that this conditioning in this world, all of that is what brings all the rest of this stuff on, right? And we're examining our conditioning and strip it away to come back to the wholeness that we really are. So I'd
Absolutely.
love to leave it with that.
Well, I will echo your gratitude. It's been a pleasure to meet with you, talk with you. I'm thankful for the work that you're doing in community, and I'm very thankful for Yoga Behind Bars. And Nikki, namaste.
Yeah, I'm so happy to meet you. I can't wait for a day we meet face to face and we can hug.
Absolutely. Have a good one.
Thank you.
Thank you so much to both Nikki and April. It was such a joy to be on a fly on the wall during that powerful conversation. For the reminder to bring our whole selves, that and to make in this world we share a better place. Systems of oppression, they fragment us from ourselves and from each other, but yoga has the power to allow us to be in union with our full selves and with one another. It allows us to hold the complexity of human beings, holding that complexity through those ands and loving them through it. That's the power of the work we do at Yoga Behind Bars. It's not just about bouncing back. It's about the ability to transform and to chip away at everything that isn't our wholeness.
It takes time to do that, just like it takes time to build programs with equity in mind. We've done a lot of rebuilding this year. In 2020, all YBB programs closed due to COVID. Over time, our Teachers Behind Bars have been able to reopen programs at Stafford Creek, Airway Heights, and Coyote Ridge with support from our staff.
And we've been hard at work finishing off a major contract with the Department of Children, Youth, and Families, or DCYF, that runs our juvenile detention centers here in Washington. In total, we'll have facilitated 18 three-hour workshops at 6 facilities throughout the state, including Echo Glen Children's Center, Nasa Lee Youth Camp, Green Hill School, Woodinville, Ridgeville, and Canyon View by the end of this month. Both the jails in downtown Seattle and Kent are getting ready to reopen to in-person programming, which hopefully means that we can move off phone visits and back into the classroom in both facilities ASAP. We also just got back into person at Monroe Correctional Facility and are hoping to launch classes at Purdy next. Between our veterans program, programs for youth, programs for adult, taught by both our volunteers and Teachers Behind Bars, we're averaging 15 classes a week across 6+ facilities, so we are serving about 150 folks behind bars each week. We're working. We also hosted a community yoga class in Seward Park in August and our trauma-informed training for educators, yogis, and facilitators in September. We're actively planning the Beyond Bars components of our work, so there is a through line for people after they are released, and where we're hoping to launch a community yoga class for previously incarcerated folks in 2023. So I just want to take a moment to just shout out our faithful team of staff and facilitators, both past and present, to whom none of this would be possible. So thank you, Miriam, Angela, Demithia, Ben, Rosa, and Alyssa, Grady, Greg, Chris, Jess, and Faraji.
And we know we're going to forget some folks tonight. And just know you are in our hearts. It truly takes so many people to get this work done, and we're just grateful to every single one of you.
Absolutely.
And tonight, We also wanted to honor a member of our community without whom we wouldn't all be here. In grappling with this loss, I searched out people who knew Shayna personally, her comrades and her co-conspirators. I wanted to share our co-founder Natalie Seal's words with you tonight. The world lost such a bright human this year. Shayna Traceman, founder of Yoga Behind Bars, left her body this June. She's survived by her 2 children, her mother, sisters, and a web of beloved family and friends, students, and colleagues. When I close my eyes, I see her brilliant smile and hear her laugh, and my heart breaks. Her children deserved so many more years of her love, holding and being held. May her love for them, eternal and present, find many hands and hearts through which to work. Shayna founded Yoga Behind Bars in the early 2000s while teaching at Samdi Yoga on Capitol Hill and volunteering at the downtown jail. We held meetings at her tiny apartment on 12th Ave, bikes piled in the street, and spent 5 years birthing a community organization that reimagined justice, love, and freedom. She was never afraid of saying what needed to be said or doing what needed to be done. Birth is the word I most associate with Shayna. She was a doula, an artist, a healer, a mother. She gave birth to so many things in her too short life: organizations, ideas, 2 adorable children, and deep, transformative relationships with so many people. Birth requires bridging 2 worlds, the spiritual and the physical, taking the unmanifest and bringing it into the physical world. When I think of her death as a different kind of birth, taking all her physical experiences and bringing them to the spirit realm for integration, I smile. I can picture her saying to all the masters of light and wisdom, "What the hell was that about? Things seriously need to change on planet Earth. Let's get to work." Thank you, Natalie, for your beautiful words. Thank you, Shayna, for your fearlessness, for your commitment to transformative relationships. We're lucky to be part of what you built. We're ready to get to work.
Going to invite folks to just take a deep breath. What a legacy. What a legacy. For those who knew Shayna, for those of you who feel this loss especially keenly right now, I hope you can take care of yourself. And I hope you can honor that this grief is rooted in your love and connection to Shayna. Now we want to share a piece of Shayna's legacy with all of you. As a part of our pilot program for youth this year, we worked with Sky Bear Media to create a series of videos for youth experiencing incarceration to make practicing yoga accessible to young people behind bars, even as COVID continues to sweep through facilities, causing outbreaks and shutting down programs intermittently. These videos aren't just trauma-informed yoga practices. They are full of stories from people with lived experience of incarceration, sharing how their yoga practice has changed them, has allowed them to be a ripple of goodness moving through their communities. Roll the video.
One of the first things you do when you open a yoga practice is you get the class centered, right? And get them familiar with the surroundings, the noises, the construction sounds, the sound of the police announcing something is all part of the space, right? He doesn't have to be quiet. It doesn't have to be perfect stillness. That just belongs there, just like your breath does, right?
Every day is a day stepping in that right direction, becoming more aware of who I am and the trauma and the systemic oppression that I went through for the last 14 years and how to shed that off and be able to say, I have a practice I can turn to, and I have a community and not a system to hold me still. I have a community that'll say, hey, come do this, come record, come do sound bowls. And so it's happening.
I think the biggest thing is sitting with yourself. I think that's the hardest for anybody. A lot of times people don't know what self is. Because when I was in juvenile detention and then got transferred to an adult facility, you're constantly always with somebody, never with yourself. If I didn't have yoga, didn't have my practice in that space to be myself, I could see where a lot of other folks that I know are back down a lifestyle because they don't know how to be by themselves. They want to be in the mix and they want to do this, they want to do that, and not know what fulfills them.
It was the humaneness. It was the escape from the bars. It was the escape from being locked behind the doors. When things are quiet at 12 o'clock at night and the thoughts are going through your head and the tears are coming out of your eyes. You know, how do you calm them down? How do you still those rougher waters? And then, after you know it, how do you become the pebble in the pond to create the ripple?
At the time where yoga found me, I was extremely fractured and didn't have that sense of self, didn't understand my purpose, didn't understand my worth. And so I'm like looking, I'm reaching for anything that was gonna anchor me because I was spiraling. I remember going to the class and leaving, that fractured feeling, it sort of dissipated as I breathed and moved and slowed down and felt into my body.
It's a slow unfolding, right? You know, just like a lotus. When you have great teachers that come in and pass something along to you so well, like the staff that did at YBB, then you have that firm grounding in that foundation, right, to blossom.
My friend made this shirt for me when I first got out, but it's like, be loud, be bold, and be free. And that's really what yoga has been for me.
If we spend, what, $110,000 a year to keep a juvenile locked up? You know what I mean? I tell you what, you give me $110,000 a year in a juvenile, and I guarantee you he ain't going to juvenile detention. He'd be going to Yale or Boston College or somewhere else, or HBCU, but he's definitely not going to prison.
The work we do does have that ripple effect. It started in a pond, and what we want for the individual raindrop, we want for the entire ocean. We want this in communities, we want this in the system, we want it for people coming out of the system, any of these pipelines that shuffle us through.
Wow. What we want for the raindrop, we want for the entire ocean.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
Truly. And we all need rituals, right? Practices for regulation and reflection. That's why trauma-informed yoga practices that emphasize choice and healing through embodiment is so effective. We see it in the classroom, but you can see it in the power of the work we do in recidivism rates as well. According to one study, only 8% of individuals who took 4 or more yoga classes returned to prison, compared with a national average of 60%.
You want to say that again for the people in the back?
Only 8% of people who took 4 or more yoga classes returned to prison, compared to a national average of 60%.
It's kind of mind-boggling when you first hear it, right? But when you think about it, it makes sense. Yoga Behind Bars programs give people the opportunity to heal, grow, and prepare for their return to communities by addressing a root cause of incarceration, which is trauma. And many people in jails and prisons have never had an opportunity to address their trauma before.
The work we do at Yoga Behind Bars is about providing that opportunity for healing and integration, about reminding folks of our shared humanity. To do that in an equitable way takes time. And at the same moment, our services have never been more needed. After years of increased isolation and worsening conditions at understaffed facilities, people behind bars need our services.
And we need more hands. Right now, we're a full-time staff of only 4, and it's just not enough to meet the requests coming to us. We need to hire more people for more hours, bring in more volunteers, while making sure they are properly trained and nurtured, and do that with equity in mind. The bottom line is, we need to raise more funds. So I'm asking you tonight, will you give right now? The link is in the chat, and I'll say it too, yogabehindbars.org/donate.
We need our community to come together to make a meaningful gift. A meaningful gift is different for each of us, so ask yourself, would I miss this amount from my bank account if it disappeared? If not, We want to encourage you to push yourself to give a little bit more.
For some of us, that might be $10. If that's you, thank you for your contribution to this work. We are so grateful for you. And for some of us, that might be $10,000. If that's you, thank you for your contribution to this work. We are so grateful for you. We're busy rebuilding, and we need the support of our community to make sure our work is sustainable and impacting our neighbors behind bars for many years to come. And while you are all so busy right now making your gift, I wanted to thank two groups of people, our board of directors and our sponsors. Thank you so much to board members past and present for your dedication and support. I also want to say thank you so much to our sponsors, Laura Sanderson, who is actually hosting an in-person event benefiting Yoga Behind Bars next Saturday. So stay tuned for our follow-up email for some more information on that. Brighton Jones, who has been a longtime supporter and who we love because they care as much about building a relationship with us as we do about building a relationship with them. Sky Bear, who edited that beautiful video that you just saw last for us for free. Love Collective, which will help you bring incredible wellness experiences to your next event. To Grinning Yogi, one of our team member Jessica's favorite studios, and to Seattle Yoga Arts, which has recently closed after many, many years of serving the community here. We will miss you, and we are grateful for your support.
And please stay tuned for more opportunities to get involved. As we reopen in more facilities, there will be more opportunities to volunteer for yoga practitioners. Before we go, we want to share how powerful some words are from our students.
This poem that we're about to read is made up of surveys from our workshops at Green Hill School. This poem is called "It Felt Really Good Doing Yoga." The movement away from here at Green Hill School, allowing ourselves to imagine somewhere other than this place, yes, it was very helpful to me.
Focusing our attention on the present, release the stress and tension. Help each other with breathing. Help me calm myself. Yoga behind bars more often. Take our minds outside of these walls.
Yes, these workshops are great. Every single one of them. The snacks, sound bowls, laying on our backs, all of them are really good. Meditation, breathing, the breathing and meditation, movement, all of them takes me to my home.
Come back. You all did great. Come back. Thank you. Keep it going. Thank you all for coming. You can come every Sunday. Gives me something to aspire to. Thank you all for showing up tonight. Let yourself be a little bit more human this week. And not just because you should for you, but because you should for all of us.
Thank you for giving so we can go back to places like Green Hill School. Our goal tonight is $50,000, and we're looking to reach $100,000 by the end of the month so that we can plan for future returns to places like Purdy and Clallam Bay. Can't do it without you.
And we can't do it without our team, several of whom are here tonight. Come on stage, y'all!
I'm in the building, man. Bucky Tribe.
Where you at, Brady? Taking your time.
Oh, there's Chris. What's up, y'all?
Good night, y'all. Thank you for being here.
Thanks,
Thank you. Bye.
Peace is an inside job.
Clear.